Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Elizabeth Cohen, and I'm a professor of communication studies. I'm going to be your instructor for this winter session course on film appreciation. And this is just a quick video. Well, I'm going to try to make it as quick as possible. Sort of introducing the course to you and going through the syllabus and just giving you sort of a general orientation to what's going to be happening for the next 3 weeks or so. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and so that we can all look at the syllabus together, and then you won't have to look at my face quite as much. Um, so listen, the first thing you need to know is anything I'm going to talk about in this video, you can obviously find on eCampus, where really the whole course is going to kind of like go down. I'm actually going to scroll in the syllabus. To the last page here, which I think is kind of like the most important. It's going to be the thing that you're most often looking for to sort of like keep up with what's going on in the class. Because as you can see here, it's got all the different things you're going to be covering, sort of sorted out by different units. And then it's also got links to all, well, most of the things you have to do. So each unit, and I'll talk about, how to handle units in just a second, but each unit is pretty much kind of the same, where you always have some sort of summary lecture, which is just like this. I'm like talking into a camera. There's usually some PowerPoint presentations. This is the equivalent of like the lecture you would get if we were doing this class in person. Um, Additionally, there are little readings that you can click on from our textbook, which happens to be open source, so you don't have to pay for it or anything. It's completely open online. Um, do you need to do the readings? No, actually. If you listen to my lectures, that will give you all the information you need to know. I like to have these readings here in case you need a little bit extra explanation or if you want to get some supplemental material. Okay. Um, You'll also see though that a lot of times I'll have not just things for you to read, but also other things for you to watch besides my lecture. These are things that if you were in my in-person class, I would sometimes show during class time, but since this is an online class, you're going to have to watch on your own. A lot of these videos are from a source called Studio Binder, which is actually, I'm not really sure exactly what it is, but it's an organization that makes a lot of YouTube videos about different types of film and story techniques. And I think they do a really good job, obviously. So I'm assigning some of the content because it's nice to just not have an explanation, but it's nice to have somebody who's edited a lot of clips together to sort of give you examples, and that's what it does. So um, what I would do when you're trying to like complete a unit is start with the lecture because that'll give you kind of an overview. If you want to do the readings, go ahead, fine. And then I would watch those little videos that I have scattered throughout after. And then finally, what you got to do is for each unit, there's some sort of quiz. Now, some of you might want to kind of keep that quiz open in one tab and then be watching other things as you go along. And that makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. So, like, you could have one browser open where you're watching my lecture, and then you could have the quiz open and you can kind of be answering the questions as you go through the course material. I think that's probably the most effective way to do it. So, um, but long story short, again, I think this last page of the syllabus is probably the most important. All this other stuff up here is not unimportant, but a lot of it's not things that you might need to do on a daily basis. It's just more sort of an overview of the policies and procedures of the course. And you can read on your own. And there is a syllabus quiz that you need to complete. So you will have to go through some of this and answer some of the questions. But I trust you to do that on your own. And in the interest of getting through our syllabus day here, I'm going to now just sort of talk about the structure of the course in terms of assignments. I've already mentioned you have these quizzes to do. Well, one really important thing about these quizzes, so the quizzes are on eCampus, and because I didn't say that before, again, you can have one tab open, you do your quizzes for each little unit. The quizzes consist of all different types of questions. They're usually, though, close-ended questions, so it'll be like multiple choice or true, false, or fill in the blank. Occasionally, there will be something a little bit more involved. You'll have to, answer some sort of open-ended question about like your impressions of things or your understanding of the material. But for the most part, they are the types of questions you would get if, say, we had an exam in this in this type of class. But there is no exam in this class. There are just those questions. And of course, they're open book, open note, whatever. And then the other second thing that you have to do for this class is what I call, oh, sorry, I've got some animals here. Shh. Come here, Fergus. The second thing you're going to have to do is what I call these show and tells. I am having you post them on the discussion board, but there's really not a discussion component to it. I just want you to be able to show and tell other people uh, about a film scene of your choosing. And then the idea is you're going to apply some of the terminology and concepts that you've learned in a given unit to some sort of film, really specifically a scene that you enjoy. So these are relatively short writing assignments. And the whole idea is you're going to link to the scene so people can watch the scene, hopefully about 5 minutes, and then you're going to like kind of perform a little analysis. You're going to need to boldface vocabulary words. There is a lot of how should I say? There are a lot of rules with this assignment, and part of that is because I don't want to make it easy for AI to be able to do it for you. And so this way it sort of like requires you to like tick all the boxes yourself. Um, but also just because it helps everybody sort of see how you're integrating the material and things like that. So again, in the interest of time here, I'm not going to go in detail about all of the different things you need to do for that assignment, but please go on eCampus and actually check out the very specific instructions that I have about the show and tell analysis that you're going to have to do. Okay. Now back, so basically here you can see the point distribution in this class. Most of it comes from quizzes, and then some of it comes from these film scene analysis posts, okay? But something really important that you need to note here is that in both cases, you don't have to do all of them. So let's say that I'm only going to take the 10 highest quiz grades that you have. Oh, sorry, the cuckoo clock is going, and I am recording this not at 12 p.m., obviously, or 12 a.m., I should say, but it's going to be a lot of cuckoo. Here, I tell you what, while that's going, you want to meet one of my dogs? Here, here. Ah, I've got two pugs. This is Fergus, and here, this is Bluma. She's the baby, and you'll probably see them in my videos too, my lecture videos. Um, okay, cuckoo clock is done. Shifting around. Okay, sorry for that interruption. So, um, I'm only going to take your top 10 quiz grades, which means if I'm going to be offering 13 throughout the whole semester. So you can skip some, and even if you get a zero, it's not really a zero because I'm just going to drop those grades. I'm only going to take 10 of them. And my goal with this is to give you a little bit of flexibility. This winter session is going to be taking place over the holidays, and even though you have the opportunity to work on things ahead of time, I don't know, maybe things are going to come up and you're not going to be able to. So keep that in mind. Also, though, maybe you want to do all the quizzes and then and that way you can maximize your grade. So like maybe there are some grades that you get on your quizzes that you're not so happy with, and then you can do better by just doing more quizzes and doing better on those. So there's a lot of flexibility there. And the same thing with these film scene analysis show and tells. So, sorry, okay, she thinks she's a cat and she gets on the table. We have a cat too. As you can imagine, they're buddies. Um, Similar thing with the show and tell analyses. There are going to be 3 opportunities to do those analyses corresponding with each week, basically. But I'm only going to take 2 grades. So you can skip one, or you can do all 3, and I'll take the best 2 out of 3. Whatever makes sense for you. Um, I will recommend very strongly that the best way to handle this is to do the first 2. And then assuming you like those grades, you won't have to do the third one because the last week of this course in the semester is going to be a little bit short because of when it ends. I'll show you that on the calendar in a second. But just before I move on, so I just want to make that clear. there are going to be more quizzes offered than you actually need to complete, and there's going to be more film scene analyses that are offered than you actually need to complete in order to get all of the points. If you do more, that's fine. Um, and again, I'm not encouraging you not to, to sort of not do anything the first week and then try to catch up because I think that'll be more difficult. But anyway, there's a little bit of flexibility. Okay, so I want to go back and just look at all that now, kind of like pull everything together so you can kind of make sense of the flow here. These are suggested dates that, you can do this work, but it's kind of like it's not suggested and like you need to do it on that day, but this is how it's like divided in terms of like when I'm planning this class and trying to think about, okay, how do I condense, a 16-week class into 3 weeks? It comes out where really well, where I can say, oh, okay, there's X number of days in the 3 week period. How can we distribute these assignments out over those, days? So this doesn't mean that you have to do all of these assignments on this date or on these dates. It's just more of a suggested, hey, if you want to go at a pace where you're completing 1 unit a day, this is what it would look like. Okay. Um, but there's a lot of flexibility here. So it could be that you complete all three of these units in one day. So maybe, you're looking at this on the first Monday of the semester because you're like a go-getter and you go through all of this. You do your syllabus quiz, you do the first content quiz, and then you go um, to watch the first film that we're going to be viewing. I'll talk about that in a second. And then you complete another quiz. And then, you know what I'm saying? So it could be that you just have a really long first day and you get through 3 units. And then on Tuesday, you do this last one, and then you don't have to do anything on Wednesday or whatever whatever, however you plan it. I'm just trying to point out that there's a lot of flexibility. And the only kind of the only constriction is there are deadlines for these general weeks. So if you want to complete any content from this week, which hopefully you do, the only restriction is you have to make sure it's all finished by Sunday, by the basically by the end of the week. So Sunday at 11:59 p.m. And the second week, you need to make sure you're through all of the second week's content that you're going to do by that Sunday. Okay. So all of the assignments, both the quizzes and these scene show and tell analyses are going to be due on Sunday. Okay. One caveat though is the last week. As I mentioned, that last week is kind of wonky because the semester technically ends on a Thursday, so that's when I have to end things too. So if you are planning to do work on week 3, buckle up and make sure that you get it done basically a lot earlier because you aren't going to have until Sunday. That said, remember, I'm only counting 12 quizzes. So if, sorry, I'm only counting 10 quizzes. So if you complete 10 quizzes, then you would probably, I think, have to look at this. I think you only have to do one quiz during the last week, in theory, if you do all the others. So, hey, it's up to you how you want to do this. And again, sometimes you might not be able to help it because you might be sick or you might be traveling or whatever. But just know that that flexibility is built in, but it's up to you to figure out how you want to handle it. Same thing again with that show and tell analysis, just to reemphasize, if you do the first 2 show and tell analyses, you don't even have to worry about submitting this third one. However, if you need to do the third one because maybe you didn't do the second one or something like that, it's going to have to be on Thursday, January 8th that week. So that's it. I'm sorry. That's not me. It's not my tummy or anything. It's just pug snoring. They're they're very snuggly, but a little loud. Um, okay, so that actually really covers most of the stuff I want to talk about. The only last thing that I wanted to make sure I covered is um, okay, it's a film class. So obviously, I already mentioned you're going to be watching like YouTube videos and stuff about film, but what films are we going to be watching? Well, there's only 3 films we're going to be watching during this semester, and I've kind of done that again to sort of correspond with the 3 weeks in the course. The first week, you're going to be watching The Shining. A lot of times when I tell students that, they're like, "Ooh, I don't like horror films." And it is a horror film, but if it's any consolation, it's what we call psychological horror. Um, And yeah, it doesn't mean it's not scary, but it's not going to be like one of these crazy slasher films or anything like that. And it's art, and we're here to appreciate. And I promise, I've had really, really good luck, a lot of success teaching it, even with people who don't really like horror, and you'll be good. The second one we're going to watch is Adaptation. And that is a really sort of um, weird, interesting film from the early 2000s when we were doing a lot of meta cinema. It's got Nicolas Cage in it. It's a very different from The Shining. And then we're going to do Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is kind of actiony and kung fu-y and th those types of things. And where you find these, so you don't have to buy anything for this class. You don't have to have a Netflix subscription or anything like that. I've put these films on course reserves. So basically, if you click on this link right here, it'll take you, you'll use your WVU login. And then if you click on this class, you should have access to all the films that you need. And again, I have, like the dates that you want to watch these by here. And you might not choose to watch them on the exact dates that I have here, but I do just want to caution you about this. A lot of times the content in this course does build on content that came before it. So I do want to caution you against skipping around, even though all of the course content is going to be available. And you can do anything at any time in the semester, so long as you get, everything done by the weekly deadlines. Um, you do want to at least go in order. So you want to make sure that you watch The Shining before you do this editing quiz, which is supposed to be after it. Okay. So that's the only sort of restriction in terms of um, the order you go, but the pace that you do this with is up to you. I mean, if you're really special. Some of you might try to do all of the course content in just like a couple of days, and it is possible. Um, I don't recommend it. I think you should pace yourself out a little bit, but again, I do understand that there's a lot going on, and this course is designed in a way, hopefully, that will let you um, take this class and get all the things out of it that you would if you were taking it any other time of year, but also sort of have the flexibility to navigate our holiday schedule. So, okay, that's it. So now what you need to do, the first thing is you need to go ahead, read the syllabus for yourself, look at those assignment descriptions, and then take that first syllabus quiz, and then you're off to the races. And if you have any questions, I will be checking my email very regularly during this winter session, at least once a day. That said, it still might take me about like 24 hours to get back to you, but I'm gonna try to be pretty good about that because I'm teaching a class. So please reach out if you have any questions. And I'm looking forward to reading your work and getting to know you a little bit better. I hope it's a great semester for everyone. So, all right, take care. Bye.